One.
Okay, this is a call to order of the Bridgeport Board of Education's Contracts Committee. Today is Thursday, May 20th, 2021. The time is noted as being 6:04 p.m. Present are committee members, myself, John Weldon, who is the chair of the committee, Joe Lombard, committee member, and Joe Sokolovic, committee member. Also present are board member Albert Benahan. And I believe we've got Dr. Victor Black from the staff. Who else? John Garrity, Director of Food and Nutrition. Marlene Siegel, CFO. Tony Pires, Business Manager. And Mr. Grasty administering the meeting, and Nick Fusco administering the meeting administratively, and Tim McNamara from HR is here as well. So the first item on the agenda is approval of minutes from April 22nd, 2021. Is there a motion to approve? Everybody's muted.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sokolovic.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lombard. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Abstain.
opposed? Any abstains?
Abstain. Abstain.
Mr. Sokolovic abstains. Okay. Next on the agenda is discussion and possible referral to the full board to approve a contract for temporary non-certified staff services with Kelly Services Incorporated for the period of July 1st, 2021 to June 30, 2024. I assume this is being presented either by Ms. Siegel or Mr. Pires.
Yes, this is Ms. Siegel. Good evening to everyone.
Hi.
I'm going to present the information on the 3 proposed contracts with
Just going to say, are
vendors for temporary non-certified staffing services. There are 3 vendors, Kelly Education, Global Solutions Group, and Midtown Group.
Okay.
We had issued an RFP, which had been approved by the board, and there were 11 bidders. The evaluation committee reviewed all 11 proposals and scored those proposals. We then ranked the proposals and identified the top 3 and decided that we would offer those 3 the opportunity to enter into non-exclusive contracts with the board to provide temporary non-certified staffing services. The 3 agreements are in a similar structure. I'm going to put one of the agreements on the screen so everyone can see it. All right, the share arrow is apparently not working the way that it usually does. So I'm just going to proceed. I believe everyone has the agreements, so I'm going to look at one of them on my screen so that I can refer to a few key elements.
Which agreement are you going to be looking at? We'll look
I
at
am going to look at the Kelly agreement.
Okay.
Right. So each agreement, as I indicated, is set up in a similar structure. Each agreement was reviewed by the city attorney, and The agreements include all of the required insurance provisions and indemnification provisions. Every agreement also indicates that there will be preference given to Bridgeport residents in the recruitment and selection of candidates for potential temporary assignments. Exhibit A in each agreement it contains the pricing for non-certified staffing. We have included 5 titles in the agreements. There may be additional titles over the course of the next 3 years that we may choose to add. If so, we will contact the companies and then update the Exhibit A documents in order to expand the table of positions and hourly bill rates. Exhibit B in each agreement contains the typical job descriptions for the various positions. These are the job descriptions that exist within the Bridgeport structure. We provided those job descriptions to the companies so that they would have an understanding of the duties, responsibilities, and qualifications for each of the titles as currently structured within the Bridgeport School District. Now, in terms of process, once these contracts are fully executed, they will be in effect starting July 1st of 2021, start of the new fiscal year, and they would be in effect for 3 years. We did include in the terms, and I'm just scrolling to mention the exact language. Just looking for it. Here it is. The term of the agreement shall begin on July 1, 21 and shall remain in effect through June 30th, 2024. That's the initial term. And then the district may, at its sole discretion, exercise the option to extend the contract by 1 or 2 additional years, each an extended term. So that would, of course, be done with board approval if the district desired to offer the company an extension of 1 year or 2 years. Also, in terms of operating procedure, once the contracts are in place, the CFO will give the authorization for all temporary non-certified services, and that authorization would be transmitted to the Assistant Director of Human Resources, Tim McNamara. And Mr. McNamara would then send an email request for services to the company's designated liaison, accompanied by the CFO's written authorization, so that we maintain internal controls within the district and control of fiscal expenses. In terms of the selection of the vendor for a particular assignment, we are going to go first to the vendor with the lowest rate for the particular position. If that vendor is not able to fulfill the request in a timely manner, then we have the option of canceling that request and submitting the request to vendor number 2, the vendor with the second lowest hourly bill rate. And if that vendor cannot fulfill the request, then we would go to vendor 3. So the bill rate will determine which vendor is approached first, and it would be the lowest bill rate for that particular position. Thank you. Are there any questions?
The only question, 2 questions that I have, and then I'll defer to the members. First, how was it determined that it would be the top 3? Was that explicitly stated in the RFP, or was there some sort of competitive range that would be established where it would be the top 2 or the top 3 or the top 4 depending on, how the score is laid.
The RFP indicated that we would be offering contracts to one or more vendors on a non-exclusive basis. We selected the top three because we felt that would give us optimal flexibility when trying to fill positions. And so I'm sure you can imagine it takes a significant amount of time and effort to negotiate a contractual agreement. And so based on the parameters that were confronting us, we thought 3 was the appropriate number. We could approach vendor number 4 or vendor number 5 at a subsequent point and develop contracts with those vendors as well, if the board chose to do so. And if that were a determination, it should not in any way impede the process of approving these 3 contracts, because all of the contracts are non-exclusive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I guess I was just saying that if I was proposer who was ranked number 4, and I was in scoring, and I don't know how these companies compared to each other from a scoring standpoint, but if I was like a razor away from proposer number 3 in terms of scoring, I'd be wondering why I was not included. So was there any kind of like clear demarcation point from a scoring perspective where you said, beyond these 3, there's nobody else who really compares out of the 11?
Well, again, those 3 had the highest proposal scores.
Yes, I know they had the highest, but
Yes.
But why again? Because what I'm accustomed to seeing is, if you're going to select a group, they have to be kind of head and shoulders above the rest, or they should be. I'm accustomed to seeing not any kind of level of discretion as to whether you pick 3 or 4 or 5. There's got to be like some kind of clear demarcation where you say, after these 3, nobody else really held a candle in terms of how well they scored. And I agree. I'm not saying that this doesn't mean that we shouldn't enter into agreements with these 3 providers. I just don't want there to be an issue with any of the other providers who says, after I FOI'd all the scores, I see I was, 2 points away from number 3, and why wasn't I included? Why weren't I included?
Well, I don't think any of the other providers have any basis for making that type of judgment. They wouldn't have any basis. There was nothing in the RFP that said we were going to select a specific number. The RFP stated 1 or more, basically at our discretion, on a non-exclusive basis.
So that's my question. I guess that.
Well, looking at the scores, the top 3 were all above 70 on the in score. The number 4 was below 70. So I was certainly comfortable, in selecting the top 3 because they were all higher than 70.
How far below 70?
Number 4 was close to 70, but not at 70.
And that's what I'm getting at, I guess, is that it was close to 70. But if your RFP specifically stated that this was all at our discretion, I think it's okay. I'm just, when it's not explicitly stated, and then things get muddled. And
I don't think there's any basis for things getting muddled. The RFP gave the district full discretion.
Then that's what I'm asking. The RFP stated specifically that the number of providers to be selected was completely at our discretion and not based on any particular thing. Or not based on any particular criteria. It was based on our discretion. and what we
The
felt.
RFP stated, as approved by the Board of Education, the Board of Education is seeking proposals from multiple firms interested in serving as a provider of temporary non-certified staff services in non-instructional roles in cases of extended or long-term absences and vacancies. That was the statement at the beginning of the RFP. And on page 4, it said the school district is seeking to enter into contract with multiple temporary service companies. We did not specify a number.
And you didn't specify whether the number would be at our discretion or not.
Well, it is at our discretion. We are the body that issued the RFP.
Okay. I guess what this is an on-call, basically, solicitation. Or it's a pool.
We only use the service if we have a need for temporary services.
And Marlene, don't misunderstand me. I'm not advocating for not entering into these agreements. I'm just saying that, you know, I'm accustomed to seeing when it's a solicitation for a pool of providers, that there's something in there that kind of delineates what's going to determine how big that pool is going to be. So a provider.
The board approved the RFP as it was written. The RFP as written gives full discretion to the district.
I'm not saying the board didn't approve the RFP, and maybe this should have been pointed out before. But I'm just talking now. I'm not saying we shouldn't enter into these agreements. I'm just saying, you know, for the sake of saying it, that I think in future things of this nature, there should be some sort of statement defining how that pool will be established. If you state specifically it will only be the top 3, irrespective of where all the scores lie, that's fine. If it's going to be the top 3 or 4 within a competitive range, or whatever the case may be. I'm just saying now, and again, it's looking back on a document that was approved previously, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't approve these contracts, but now that we're talking about it further, I think that kind of thing should be defined in future solicitations of this nature, where we're soliciting a pool of providers for something. That's all I'm saying. I'm not challenging your recommendation, though.
Understood.
Okay. I thought I had another question, but this discussion kind of blew that out of my mind. Oh, I know what it was. I recall, is this the same solicitation, or is it another one where it was talked about there being some sort of priority or a desire for the providers to have a priority for hiring Bridgeport people?
I believe I stated in my opening remarks that provision is specifically included in each of the contracts.
Okay. All right. There's been a bunch of these lately, so I wanted to make sure I was getting
understood.
Okay, that's all for me.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No, really? Okay. All right, so I was the only one? Okay. All right, so I'm assuming that your presentation is substantively the same for the other 2 items. It's
yes.
Same contract, different rates, same provisions. So what I'll do is, for the sake of expediency, I will put these all together in a motion we'll do this first one, and then I'll just seek motions for the other 2. So I seek a motion to enter into a contract for temporary non-certified staff services with Kelly Services for the period of July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2024, as presented by staff.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Lombard, second by Mr. Sokolovic. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Discussion. Okay, we're going to make 2 more motions, and then we'll be all set. Are these the only things that you're here for, Ms. Siegel?
Yes, but I will be listening in because there is another item that I assisted in developing.
Okay,
Thank
Fair
you.
all right. Next item is discussion and possible referral to the full board to approve contract for temporary non-certified staff services with Midtown Personnel Incorporated, DBA, the Midtown Group, for the period of July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2024. Is there a motion to approve that contract as presented by staff in the prior item?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Lombard,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Sakalovic. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And the third of these items is discussion possible referral to the full board to approve contract for temporary non-certified staff services with Global Solutions Group Incorporated for the period of July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2024. Is there a motion to enter into that agreement?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Lombard,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Sakalovic. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Fifth item is discussion possible referral to the full board to approve the food and nutrition services request for 2021-2022 bid solicitation approval. I think this could have been worded better, but I think this is the annual food items bid request.
That's correct.
Okay. So this is the commodities and the non-commodities. It's all of it. You're looking for authorization ultimately to go out to the market.
Correct. We're requesting, first of all, to discuss and possible action to extend 2021 bid awards through 21-22. There's a few companies that agreed to extend their pricing for another year. Not a whole lot of companies. Let's see, there's probably about 10 that agreed to maintain current pricing for another year. The big one was our dairy, which we're currently using Creamoland out of New Jersey, and they agreed to lock in their pricing for next year.
Okay.
And then the other item would be just discussion and possible action to solicit food product bids for 2021, 2022, or August 1st through July 31st.
So the solicitation from last year, did that have provisions for for extension of the contracts?
Yes, I spoke to Laura Demora in purchasing, and they are eligible for an extension, a one-year extension.
Okay. So my question was, in the solicitation from last year, was it explicitly stated that option years to extend it?
I don't want to say yes or no
Okay.
because I don't have the documentation in front of me, but I can review that and
Yeah.
get an answer.
Yeah, I would do that because, you know, I mean, these are food items, prices change year to year. Unless it's explicitly stated that we can add an option year, I'd be hesitant to do that, especially when we don't know if a competitor might undercut someone who would hold their current pricing. It's entirely possible, and we would save in that regard. But also, you know, the fact that it's not quite certain whether that provision was included in last year's bid solicitation, I'd be hesitant to go forward in that regard. Like I said, unless you find out more information between now and the board meeting that this is going to be referred to, we can talk about it then. But this meeting tonight is just a referral of this to the full board on Monday. So there's a
Yeah.
little time to try to find that out a little better.
And if that clause is not in the bid document that is posted, I will then withdraw the bid extension request and we'll
Yeah,
just
then we
go
just,
out to bid on everything. That I don't have a problem doing
Yeah.
that. I'm
um,
prepared to do that.
but again.
But I thought, in these inflationary times, there are companies want to maintain business and to agree to lock in a current price when they were awarded the price to begin with, or they awarded the item to begin with based on the lowest price from last year.
Well, does either of the Joes have a question? Joe
No,
1,
sir.
Joe 2?
No.
No.
Only how has a year passed so fast? Seemed like we did this just yesterday.
I know.
Comes around, yeah.
Yeah, it goes after. All right, so then I will seek a motion to refer this matter to the full board for its consideration and possible approval.
Okay,
Is there a motion?
appreciate that.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sakalovic,
Second.
second by Mr. Lombard. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this will be on Monday night's agenda. Try to find out a little more information about that because the question will come up.
I will definitely get that information
Yeah.
for Monday's meeting.
And it's nothing against Ms. Demora, but I mean, it's one thing to put that out there because it's not unheard of, but it's another thing to do that when it wasn't explicitly stated at the onset. And if that's
Understood.
something you want to be able to entertain, if it's not there, and it's something you want to be able to do going forward, then in this coming solicitation, make sure something like that goes in there where you seek pricing for option years 1 and 2 and stuff like that. And then it'll be solidified if somebody really wants to hold their price in the future.
Understood.
Okay. Next is discussion and possible referral to the full board to approve the second amendment of the professional services agreement with the university school for expelled student education services. Is this Mr. Pires? You're the only one who hasn't.
Yeah.
spoken. Okay. Are you presenting this, Tony?
Yeah, I can start off on it. I believe Dr. Black is present if there's
And
any
Dr.
questions.
Black, okay,
Yes,
In terms of grammatic,
okay.
you want to go, Dr. Black? It's up to you.
or we leveraged an expulsion program this past year that involved our remote systems through Teams. However, going into next school year, being that the remote option is somewhat off the table and we do not necessarily have staffing to leverage that at this point, we're looking to extend the TUS agreement for another school year. During this year coming up, we are planning to build our own internal, I would say, expulsion program, leveraging Edgenuity, which is one of our platforms, including the Teams platform as well, and potentially an after-school component that would leverage our certified staff. But that stuff needs time to be built, of course. So in extending our TUS agreement for a school year, that will give us time to implement our own internal expulsion program, which we believe will be more helpful on that initiative. However, we do need your approval for that extension, so at least we have a resource for our expelled kids for next school year.
Do you have anything to add to this, Tony?
No, this extension is basically been reviewed by the legal city attorney's office, and it's in compliance with the procurement process. So this is just another extension of the First Amendment, which was issued for the year prior to last. Since we had nothing going on last year, this becomes the Second Amendment to the original agreement.
So the original agreement allows for up to 2 extensions.
Correct.
We didn't exercise number 2 last year because we just
There was nothing to exercise,
nothing
really.
going on.
Right.
We're doing it this year. And then internally, we're hoping to develop an internal program for the following.
Right.
All right. Anyone have any questions?
I do.
Mr. Sakalovic.
Yes. What was the price? Is this the same price point as last year's?
Yeah.
As the prior contract?
Yes. Yes, they agreed to hold the same price as last year. For 30
Okay,
slots.
and,
I believe.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, 30 slots for the same price. Okay. Another question. This year we were utilizing the teams process, and did the expelled students utilize our regular teams with their regular teachers, or did they use a separate platform with the university school?
This year
I
was
believe. Go ahead, Dr. Black.
This year was more for a remote option with their regular teachers. There were aspects of it that was asynchronous.
Okay, now, how come we can't immediately implement that with the live streaming from the students' classroom? Because that will give them 6+ hours of instruction rather than the 4 the university school. Is there any, I mean, it seems like all the technology is in place to have it streamed for that, and that's something that actually I hope is being considered for expelled students and medically fragile students, because the classroom instruction from the class that they're going to be returning to makes for the best seamless transition, I would think.
So the agreements that were in place through MOUs with the union that involved streaming classroom instruction, those will expire. In addition to that, teachers teaching on the dual platform in person and online is not really seen as optimal for the kids who are in person. So we'd need to formulate a means by which we have a dedicated online instructional program for these students, because the dual instruction simultaneously actually takes away from the kids who are there in person. In addition to that, the reality is we have to plan this program. It is going to cost more than our program, I would say, we implemented before, simply because we need to plan and have staff available during a time that they're not actually involved in our regular traditional instruction. The expelled component of it kind of requires some level of separation from the traditional environment as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Lombard? Questions?
No questions.
Okay. Mr. Benahan from the mountains?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. I have a question. Mr. Perry, see the contract, they say contract, and they say that VOE shall pay $235,000. So, that's the way they want the contract?
Yeah, that's always been the case with the university school. We pay for the slots so that they can staff up accordingly, because we don't really have a plan for, we don't know how many kids are going to get expelled. So they need to staff up to a certain level. So we agreed to a 30 slots, and that would be the cost that would for a maximum of all the slots.
All right, thank you, Mr. Perry.
Yep, you're welcome.
No more questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Just to clarify, you're paying for the 30 slots, whether or not they are filled, just to lock them in?
That is correct.
Yes, that's
That's what I
correct.
thought. Just want to make sure I understood correct. Okay. So is there a motion to refer this item to the full board for its consideration and approval? Everyone's muted.
So moved. So
Moved
moved.
by Mr. Sakalovic, second by Mr. Lombard. All in favor? Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, I think that does it. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Lombard, second by Mr. Skokovic. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, time is noted as being 6:39 PM. We are adjourned. We'll see you all Monday night.
God
Good
bless
night,
you.
everybody.
Thank you all for being here.